his hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. I am blessed of the Lord, his hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, believing in fear of God. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, believing in fear of God. Like the holy plan, round about your table, children are the heritage of God. I am seeking first the kingdom of God, cause I am a praying child. I gotta pray just to live I am a praying child. I am a praying child. Whether I am black or white, I am a praying child. Just I have to pray. I am a praying child. Yes, I have to pray. I am a praying child. Jesus got my I am a praying child. I am blessed of the Lord, his hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. I am blessed of the Lord, his hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. God bless you. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Daily Prayer for Our Children. It's good to have everybody in the house. Wherever you are joining us from, we'd like to welcome you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. If you are meeting us for the very first time, Monday to Friday, you will find us here by the grace of God. So please feel free to join us here. To all the people that normally goes back to watch, a million thanks to every one of you for the comments, the support, the prayers. They are all deeply appreciated. Thank you very much for all your support. So this evening, I want us to jump right in again so that my sister can maximize the time that we've got together. She's had a long day, I'm sure. So we are together again. We are still very much looking into how we can help our children with their education. So by now, even without me saying her name, you guys already know who I'm talking about. She's the only educational expert that we have in the house so far. And she comes in and she refreshes us, she equips us, she gives us all the knowledge that we need in order to help us to raise godly offsprings as well. So not just Bible, but we also have sisters in the house and brothers as well, but mostly on this platform we tend to get sisters that comes to equip us as parents. So like I said, we have got Sister Folakemi waiting very patiently in the background, and she's all ready to go. So I'm going to cross over to where she is. In fact, I forgot to ask. She was somewhere on Saturday because I was supposed to watch on Zoom on Saturday. By the time I saw the flyer, they've already finished. So when she comes, so I'm going to ask anyway. So everybody, Sister Folakemi, a very, very, very warm PCC family welcome for my beloved sister. Here she is, everybody, Sister Folakemi. God bless you, ma.
Amen. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. It's
You
good
are
to be here.
welcome. Good to
And
have
you
you on
are.
board. You were somewhere on Saturday, weren't you, on Zoom?
Yes, I was.
Mm-hmm.
I was.
Because by the time I saw it, I had a class. My class finished at 12, and I think it's supposed to start at 12.
Yeah, it started
So
at
I was
12.
supposed to say, okay, when I finish, but the thing is, my class never finishes at 12. That's the problem. So by the time I remembered, I said, oh, wow, okay. So I was supposed to talk to you about it, but we can catch up anyway. That's even if you have it, because I know you were an invited guest. So I
Yes,
don't
I
even
think
know.
it was on YouTube. It's
Oh,
on
that's good.
YouTube,
Then I'll be
yes.
able to watch it. That's
Mm.
great. So how have you been?
We thank God. Feeling great. The sun is shining. Sun is shining.
What did you say?
The sun is shining in
No,
UK.
he's my boss. My boss said you gave a spiritual answer.
ah, which one is spiritual there? Feeling
we,
great.
we thank God. It's
I
a
didn't say.
spiritual.
Oh, I didn't even think about it.
It's a spiritual answer. So we're so grateful again for your time. Thank you
Yes.
so much. I'm very grateful. And I'm sure all the parents as well are very grateful for all that you do for us. And we
Thank
do
God.
not take you for granted. Thank you. So I'm handing over the reign to you again. I see there's a few more slides than the last time, so I don't know whether it's
Um,
something we'll be able
yeah,
to cover, but we'll see
yeah.
how far we can
I
get.
think we'll probably do stop at the before we start the SCN.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, no
yeah.
worries. So let me know what to do. Should you want me to bring the slide straight away?
Yes, let's go
Excellent. No
straight away.
worries. So we're gonna go straight into the slide, everybody. Just bear with me as I do this. Here we are.
Okay, right. So good evening, everybody. Um, this is an area that I'm passionate about because as parents, we have, if in fact, we have a big role to play, a part to play in the education of our children and in advocating for their education, in in making sure that they get what they need, what each of them need, because each child needs, sometimes they need different things. So being there and being an active part of their education is very important. And I just want to, pick out a few things for us to talk about. Hopefully we'll be able to, do some justice to the topic.
Amen.
So why do we need to advocate for our child's education? Why do we need to be their advocate? Of course, I know that we know the meaning of being an advocate. Be the spokesperson, being the mouthpiece. The one who's watching and who is monitoring. That's why we're there. So why do we need to advocate? We want our children. That will be the next slide. We want our children to have wholesome education, and wholesome education means all round education. Education is not just about learning at school. So for me, it's being proactive and ensuring that apart from the school side of things, our children get an all-round education. They're doing other things outside of school that that they're interested in, that would that enhance their skills. They're doing sports, they're doing dance and drama, and a lot of the things that some of the things that are not available in school, or that they're not getting enough of. I mean, wholesome education could be anything. Depends on what your vision for the children is, and what your dreams and plans. So it's being mindful of those things, as well as the mainstream school education. Now, the other reason why we must be on our toes and our alert is that the educational system is complex, especially if you are living in the developed nations. There's constant changes. That things are always evolving, starting from school choices to constant changes in the curriculum, updating of the texts and things like that. I came into this country, even though I'm a teacher, I understand the system, but I was taught differently as in when I went to school. And the only plus, the only thing I had on my side was I had taught in the British curriculum school before I moved to this country. So I understood the system a bit, but I still had a lot of learning to do because now my children were going through the system. So the educational system could be complex. The methods are different. I'd speak to parents and they say, oh, that wasn't what they taught us. I don't even know what a number line is. I don't know what this high frequency was. We didn't know all of those things. So it's a complex system. So we have to be involved. We have to be alert so that we can help the children. And then the curriculum changes. It changes a lot. You can't assume that what child A did is what child B would do. So we need to be mindful. Okay, and help is needed every step of the way. Whether the child is starting nursery or they're starting primary school or they're starting the next class, we just need help. And if we're not aware that we need help, then there could be a problem. So we need help every step of the way, especially since most of us are not even in the system to know what's going on. I am a teacher, but after primary school, I had to seek further help because secondary school is a different kettle of fish. Um, we need to be advocates because there tends to be a gap in communication between home and school if parents are not mindful, because children will be children. Messages will get lost, notifications will get lost. Thank God for these days now when schools have moved, maybe
To
COVID,
email.
with emails and apps. By the time my daughter, my baby was through, by the time she was doing A levels, we were doing everything on the app. So you would just get a notification. There's a form for you to fill. In the days of paper, oh my God, it was excruciating. It was painful chasing, phoning parents up to try and get, their signature for stuff. But by 3 4 years ago, things had moved on. So there were apps. There are now apps for you, but that means you still need to be mindful of looking at the app, making sure the setting it's set to where it will give you a notification to look at it once a day so that you can see, oh, they've put a newsletter there, they've put all of this there, so that we can bridge the gap in communication. And sometimes, like I said, there's gaps in our understanding of what the system actually is. What is the grading system? What does a 1 mean? What does a 9 mean? Where is my child in all of that? So all of these are the reasons why we need to be, at alert. Um, One thing that is important, that's the next slide, please, is effective communication, homeschool communication. We find that the parents that have children with special needs will be more involved, more on the ball than other parents. If it's, most parents think, oh, my child is all right, just you go to school, go and learn. When the children start a new class, reach out, introduce yourself, even if it's through an email. These days that everything is electronic. Attend meetings. This is my pet peeve. Please attend parents' meetings. Attend school events. Sometimes it's not just the fact that you're meeting the teachers. Sometimes you meet other parents. I have a lot of my friends who eventually found, travel buddies. So I don't know what they call them these days.
Is that when they share the same vehicle?
They share the same vehicle. They take turns in picking the children up. That just from going on the playground and dropping your children off, you can meet people that can ease the stress for you. So please attend meetings, please attend school events, carol service, whatever it is they're doing, make the effort and gather as much information as possible before you go to meetings. Make sure you're well, you're well informed. You've made a note of your questions, whatever queries you have, get them ready. Voice your concerns as soon as they start showing up. Voice your concerns. That means you are paying attention to the child and to their needs as well. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a concern if you haven't looked at their books or you haven't looked at their grades and all of that. It's important that we communicate with school. Once I find something, once I found something I didn't I actually miss those days. If I find anything I don't understand, send an email, ask for a time to have a phone call. It doesn't even have to be face to face. Okay, we have Teams these days and all of that. You can easily communicate with school. The next slide. Information is power. We must stay informed. I know how many parents over the years have said to me, "Oh, I don't even understand this system." I know how often I have people, come to my door or waiting for me from after work who want to talk about. I mean, that for me, that's positive. They know that they need help. They're seeking it. So let's make sure that we familiarize ourselves with the curriculum. What's the school policy? What's the uniform policy? Especially when you have teenagers, they try and wangle their way. Oh, this is the kind of shoes I want. You as a parent, make sure you check the school policy. Are they allowed black trainers? Are they not allowed? What sort of tops do they, what's the length of their skirts? And keep an eye on it. Relevant, you also need to know, or what are the relevant government. Now let me go back to policies, especially as they get into the teenage years. What's the internet policy? What's the ICT use policy? What are they allowed to do in the IC on school computers? What should they not be doing? All of those things we need to remind the children, because children being children, they will get into the ICT lab, for instance, or even the science lab. I've seen children messing about in the science lab. That is dangerous. So those sort of things are communication, are conversations we should have with our children, just so they know. They will say, "Oh, I know, I know." I'll say, "Yes, I'm reminding you."
They always know.
I'm reminding you for my own peace of mind. So let me remind you that this is the school policy concerning these things, and do them even as little as PE kits. These children, they want to wear jogging bottoms. They want to, most schools have a strict,
Yeah.
dress code for their PE. They'll say no stripes, no logos, no one. They want to go to school and show off that they have these Nike joggers. So those sort of things. If we can avoid trouble, let's just avoid it.
Exactly.
It's plain and simple. If you wear it to school, they seize it. I'm not going to ask them to give it back to you. End of discussion. So they know that we don't do those things. So the relevant school rules and policies, remind them, remind the children. Once the children know that they themselves would sit up. I think they take advantage of the ignorance of the parents. Take advantage of that. So once they know that, oh, my mom is on the ball, my daddy knows, he knows that Wednesday is not ICT club, or he knows that Thursday is not drama club, then they won't be playing games with us. But if they just know that, oh, I'll just say to my mom, "Yeah, I'm going to drama club." You say, "Oh, okay, is it today?" And you've forgotten. Meanwhile, there's no club that day. So just keeping tabs on what's going on generally. New government legislations. Have a look at what's new in education, just so you are informed. Also, um, being understanding the learning style of the child, so we can support them effectively at home. What are their strengths? What are they what areas are they struggling with? What are the areas of weaknesses? Um, if, for instance, from primary school you have a child who doesn't like maths, then make sure that they get a good grasp of their numbers, number work. We call it basic numbers. I always say to the children, if you can add to 10, you can add to 100, and then on, so on and so forth. Once they get the basic skills, I mean, the child who doesn't like maths probably would eventually not get an A star in maths. But once they have the basic skills, once we've made sure that we've found support for them for that area, then we won't have to worry. We won't have to worry when they get into the exam classes. Look, think about their gifts, their talents, and their passions. So it's not just about, oh, learn your maths, learn your English. What are their giftings? If a child likes the trumpet, for instance, or the saxophone, and they don't have the facilities at school, let's make room. Have find an opportunity for them to learn that. What talents do they have? Are they good speaking? Let them drama. Find a drama place for them to practice those skills. What are their passions? Do they like fashion? Is there someone who's in that area that they can understudy? Those sort of things are really important. Let's move on. Documentation. Every time I think about documentation, I think about my dad. He had a file for everybody, and I think it was when I graduated, I got a file. I still have my primary school results. When we know those cards with the insert, I have them upstairs because my dad gave it back to me. I have my secondary school results all filed away. So we must keep records of the children's academic progress. you know what you see. If you sit down and say to the child, especially the teenagers, oh, what did you get in maths last he will tell you, if you haven't looked at, if you haven't made a record, and then this, maybe he got a B last term and this term is getting a C. He will tell you it was a C. You too, you won't remember if you don't go and look, if you don't keep the record. Report cards and test papers are not things that we put around, because what's going to happen is they're going to get lost in your paperwork. So these days we can even scan and do all kinds of things. Technology is advanced. Make sure that there's a way of keeping records of their progress. What are their targets? What is the target for this child? Even in primary school, they'll tell you, what do they use these days now? Accessing, um, I don't know what the baseline is, and exceeding. So knowing where they are, knowing what's the gap, where should they be? Okay, keeping their report cards, looking at test scores. Once they get into secondary school, most secondary schools will do the card tests. As for the result, what does it mean? What difference would it make? How can this child be supported further? So documentation is important. Keep a record of all necessary documents, so that when you need them, you know where to find them. I still have the box that has my children's stuff upstairs, from nursery, from the time when we used to do art projects. All of the stuff they brought back, it's there for them. When they're leaving, I will give them their load. I'll give them when they're looking for something. Mom, is it in that your box? Even some of P60, I mean P45, I say, are you not supposed to keep your things? But they know that me, if I sit on the table, I'm going to go and put it away, because eventually you come back and ask me,
Ask for it.
or I'm the one that keeps saying, this is a document. This is, you need to look after. You need to put it away, so that when you need it, you'll be able to find it. We were having one conversation. One of them had come home for Easter holiday or something, and We were saying something about passport. And she said, "Oh, I left it since school." I said, "Excuse me, don't be leaving such things behind. When you need to carry it with you, so you just might need it." So teaching them to look after these documents because they're important. Um, Next slide. Seek necessary support. Now, not, if you haven't paid attention, or you're not advocating, you're not being the voice for the child, you might miss out in areas where they need support. Once the child has started school, they've done an assessment, they've told you he's only accessing, or he's only emerging. It means he's not where he's supposed to be. Seek support. Some of it would cost us money, because sometimes, especially if the children are going to government schools, we might not get all some of the support we want. Look out for educational consultants. Look within the community that there will always be one person who's a teacher that or somebody who knows somebody. you know Tutors, up till now, even though mine are university, I'm still recommending tutors to people. Once they say, physics, I say, go to so and so, because I've been there. So don't keep quiet about things. If your child is struggling with English, ask. We belong, especially those of us that are Africans. We belong to so many, WhatsApp groups. That's where those groups should come in useful. Ask the question, please. Who knows where I can find an English teacher, and then somebody would signpost you and all of that. So therapists, speech and language therapists, if you need one, what do they call them? Or any form of therapist, local organizations, national organizations, children that have needs. For instance, the British Dyslexia Association. That's the beauty about the developed nations. There are always associations for any area, anything you are looking for. There's mothers forums everywhere on the internet, and so there's lots of resources out there. Seek support when you need it. Parent groups. There are 1,000,001 parent groups on Facebook. Even if that's the only thing you can't go and do on Facebooks, they're just parents of children that have this, parents of children in year one. It is there. There's so much out there. The Parent Teachers Association, those who are already familiar with the school will be able to say, oh, point you in the right direction of things to do. So that means you are attending those things as well. Now, avoid last minute panic. I had to put that one. It's not until the child gets to year 10 or year 11, they're preparing for the
Exams, GCSE exams.
GCSE. You now say, I'm looking, the mock result comes out, then panic sets in. No, please. Once, once they've you would know as soon as, if you're paying attention and you're asking the right questions, asking, okay, so what level is he at, what level should we be, what's the average level for this year group. It's just asking intelligent questions, because we're showing, we're being proactive, and showing interest in what the children are doing. So asking the questions like, okay, where should he be, where is he now, what can we do to to support them further. So let's not do last minute panics, please, especially at GCSE level, because those are life determining exams. You don't want the child to now not pass a maths or pass the English, and then it will now be college, now be all of that. All of that can be avoided by us being proactive and checking all along the way. I know that even I was checking when my son's GCSE mock results came out. The English caused a panic, even though he had been passing the English. And I was, so at that point I was like, no, we will do extra English, because there's no way you're going to not pass
Mm.
GCSE English.
Mm.
So those sort of, if we need to be, I know of children who have hidden their results. This was A levels,
Wow.
who would not pass. They will do marks, they won't pass, they will hide it, then they will have reference, they will have receipt and still not pass. It's when they now don't pass the receipt that the parents will hear about it.
Wow.
So we just need to. That's why little things like put your timetable on there. What's on this week. This is the schedule for this week. Look at the school calendar. Those sort of things. Then you would know. You would know. So let's be proactive so we don't have to panic. Right. Know your rights. Now, as ethnic minorities, sometimes, especially Africans, we can sometimes be reluctant to push. Know your legal rights, especially when children, at every point, even if the child doesn't have special needs, at every point, as in what am I entitled to, what should my child be getting. There's something we call quality first teaching. Is there, is there is the teaching adequate? Are the children understanding? And that also, it's also with that, it's important to listen to the children, because sometimes the children, even though we can feel their children, sometimes they're right. Like I remember my daughter had one, newly qualified teacher, and it was before GCSE, and of course a young teacher teaching teenagers. It was hard for her, and they were disrupting the class. And my daughter was like, "Mom, oh God, that I can't even remember what subject it was." And I thought that's a tough one, but we prayed about it, and it got and we got had a solution. But sometimes it's real, like especially when they're struggling to focus because other children are making noise or
Distraction.
distracting in the
Mm.
class. I would just write an email to whoever the tutor is and say, could you please look into this?
Mm.
Because your child deserves to be able to focus and to learn.
Of course.
So let's know our rights and let's ask questions. Let's see if there's adjustments that need to be made to accommodate the needs of the child and all of that. Um, when there's learning gaps, when there's academic struggles, um, working with school to identify interventions, because sometimes if we don't ask the right questions, and if your child is one of the quiet ones, they will slip between the gaps.
Mm.
And if they've got needs, then it would just the gap will get bigger. The gap between them and the pairs will get bigger. So um, working with school to say, okay, this is okay. We've done the high frequency words. He can read 40 out of the 100. Okay, this is the 60 he can't read. Okay, well, we're practicing at home. What's happening at school? So it's hand in hand. It's hand in hand, and we reviewing that regularly to say, okay, we've been practicing. So how is it now? Don't just assume that, or don't take it for granted. If he was 40 at first parents evening, second parents evening, he hasn't made progress.
Mm.
We've practiced at home. If he hasn't
Mm.
made progress, what's the next step?
Mm.
So it's not just about us, okay, going to seek external help. It's having that discussion with school to say, okay, what's the next step? What else can we do to ensure that the gap is filled? So um, part and know your rights when it comes to part-time timetable, and I'll explain that. Some people might not be familiar. Some children are having to have reduced hours in school now. that is not supposed to be a permanent thing. And it could be for various reasons. It could be because of the special needs. It could be because of their health. It could be because of, behavioral issues. It could be because of anything. And what I would say is the school, it has to be an agreement. It has to be like a meeting with school to say, okay, in the interest of this child, both parents and school have agreed to have this part-time timetable. It could be half of the school day. So for some children, it's as low as 2 hours, depending on what the issues are. Some children just can't cope. Now, that's not supposed to be a permanent thing. But if you don't know, it can go on forever because everybody in school wants to rest, especially if it's a child that's having, challenges. So those sort of timetables need to be reviewed regularly, every 2 3 weeks, depending. I think it should be reviewed every 2 weeks. I think off the top of my head, you need to ask those questions. When is the next review? And then when it's reviewed, the time at school should be increased because every child is entitled to full-time education. Those are exceptional cases. Know your rights when it comes to suspensions and exclusions. Okay, usually your local authority would have, what the guidelines are. Read them. If I mean, nobody wants it for their children, but if those things happen, what are your options? In Milton Keynes, where I live in the UK, we have the Sendias team who help parents. It used to be called Parent Partnership, but then it has different names all over the country now. Right. So exclusions. What are your rights? What how long? If for instance a school calls and says, "Come and pick your child," you've got to be able to ask them to give you an exclusion note. If they're asking you to take the child away, it's got to be formal. And most schools, if a lot of schools don't want exclusion on their record. So just know your rights. Just know your rights as far as those sort of things are concerned. If you have been asked to take a child away without any accompanying paperwork, that's informal exclusion. So we should know. We should know some of these things.
Yes,
Okay.
we should.
Okay, let's move
It's
on.
interesting because when I was looking at that, I'm wondering, is there a typo, part-time timetable? I mean, why are we having part-time timetable? Obviously, I've never encountered it. I
Yeah.
don't know whether anybody listening to us has ever heard of it, but I've never heard of it until now.
It's it happens. I'll give you basic examples. When children start for reception, the first year of primary school, they don't start a full day straight away.
Yes.
They will first come in. So it's sort of similar to that. Sometimes children struggle. They either struggle with self-regulation because they have needs, or it depends. Usually, it's most of the time it's self-regulation, and they get really overwhelmed. So the schools we will cut back their time at school and then increase it gradually
Until
to
it's
help them
full-time.
readjust. Yeah, until they get back to full time. Their aim is for them to get back into full time as soon as possible.
If you know your rights.
If you know your rights, and if the child, the thing is not just a school decision. It's both school and parent
Collective.
working together, collective decision to review how well is this going. Are we in a good place to increase the time at school?
Okay. Good information.
Okay, right. This is an important one. Transitions. My team from after this week will be working on transitioning children who are moving to the next class, children who have special needs. And we as parents need to realize that these transitions they are important and they affect the children. And I'll explain. A child who's starting nursery for the first time,
Mm.
that's why nursery in the UK, in most countries, you don't just, well, in most developed countries, don't just plunk them in school
Mm.
for 7 hours.
Mm.
You will start, that's what I used
Gradual.
when I gradually, when I first came to school, I was like, oh my God. But before you finish, before you get home,
You're
you
going
drop the
back.
child. You're going back to pick the child up. So it's a gradual introduction into the system, because what you're doing is you're pulling that child away from their comfort zone and putting them in a different environment. So transitions are really important, and it doesn't mean that the child has been at school. Okay, he was in the nursery of that school, but moving to big school is a
Mm.
big deal. Knowing, watching the child, making sure they are comfortable, making sure they understand what's going to happen, making sure they can discuss their anxieties about, what's coming. You won't believe how anxious some children can get,
Mm.
especially since after COVID. So transitioning from home to nursery, from from childminder to nursery,
Mm.
from nursery to foundation, from
Mm.
foundation to year one,
Reception.
from reception or foundation to year one. Now reception and nursery, they're free flow in the UK. They play, they do all of that. When they get to year one, because I taught year one for a long time, after 5 minutes in the class, they'll go, can we go and play? I mean, this place, we do work. So we do work here. So usually, first time in year one is not oh, just sit. First time in year one will be a mixture of, the early years foundation state curriculum. We will give them a bit of a free flow so they can settle. So
Mm-hmm.
transition is important because it's change. Most adults struggle with change, but we expect children to just take it in their stride and just,
Mm.
oh, it's not just school. It's
Mm.
not just school. It's different classrooms, different members of staff,
Mm.
different ways of doing things, and it
Mm.
can cause anxiety. It
Mm.
can. Transition from primary school to secondary school is a big deal. It is a big deal. And sadly, a lot of children are struggling with secondary school now because most primary schools are compact, they're small, whereas secondary schools are, a lot of secondary schools are big,
Yeah.
especially they're
Just even
big.
finding your classroom.
A lot of them get lost, a lot of them, just lose their bearing. So transition to secondary school, it's important that we support the children emotionally and that we, you know, sit down and look at, their executive function skills. How organized are they? How well do they remember things? How well do they make decisions?
Mm.
When they're transitioning to secondary school, we need to help them, fine tune those skills so that they don't get sucked in. What tends to happen is when children haven't settled well, they will
Mm.
now go and join those that make noise
Ah.
because they're frustrated. They just need to, they want the problems to go away.
Way. Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
pretend it's not there and they become the class clown.
Wow.
So transitioning is important, checking in with them. How is it going? What areas do you need help with? Children will say fine, still find a way of, your children.
Mm.
What my son, yeah, was he year seven or year 8? Year 7. He's one of those. He's a July baby, so he was one of the smallest in his class. And I just came home one day and he was sat there with one long face. I said, "Ah, what's the matter with you?" He said, "Nothing." Ah, I said, that's your face doesn't say nothing.
Nothing.
There's something. So, oh, mom, they're just laughing at me that I'm short. I mean, those sort of things can end up become bullying.
Yes.
So we had that conversation, and I said, if you really don't like it and you've told them and they haven't stopped, then speak to your form tutor or somebody. So I said, you know what? Once they sense it's a weakness, once they sense it's really bothering you, they would go for the kill. It's like they smell blood.
Vulnerability.
Mm. So if you put off a firm boundary and say, stop talking to me like that, they'll they'll probably back off. So that blew over. So it's important that we're observant and we ask the questions, and we provide the support in transition. Transitions from secondary school to A levels, massive jump, massive jump. Some of them think, oh yeah, okay, I didn't even talk about year 2 to year 3. Year 2 to year 3 is a big one as well. Year 1 and 2, there's still a bit of nurturing. Year 3 is a big jump, and we find that there's a huge dip in attainment in year 3
Wow.
because the curriculum just
Changes.
becomes full on.
Okay.
Is full on from year 3 in the British curriculum. So those sort of transitions, they are important for you to check how your child is doing, check what support they need, encourage them. A levels, from O levels to A levels is a big one. Some of them think, oh, I have 2 subjects, and then by the time they realize, oh, I have 3 subjects. By the time they realize that 3 subjects is like 10, by the second term of A levels, their faces look like it's the end of the world.
Wow.
It was my son that said, when I said, what's wrong with your sister? I said, mom, don't you know A levels, first year of A levels is hard. So that gave me, and I started speaking to her. What are the problems? What can we do? When we went to find chemistry teacher, we found maths teacher,
Wow.
just to help.
You didn't even choose the small subjects.
She did chemistry, maths, and chemistry. No, chemistry, maths, and economics. So yeah, so those things. Transition A levels can be tough. It can be it can be quite tricky for them. Make sure don't think they're grown up.
No.
They're not grown up.
Especially A levels. A levels and O levels are two different universe entirely.
Totally.
Entirely. And that's why I'm an advocate that no matter how well your child does in GCSEs, that summer period, if you already know the college, sixth form, school they're going to go to, find out the boards and start doing tutoring in those gaps because they're going to need it, because it's such a huge jump. I learned that lesson once. I never did it twice. I'm telling you.
Once is enough.
And I always advocate. I tell people, so that summer holiday when you think you've got, oh, I'm free, I'm traveling, I'm all that. No, you're not traveling anywhere. This is where we give you a head start. And like you said, the tutoring, thank God a lot of tutoring due to COVID is now online. Anybody can tutor anybody across the globe.
Yes.
Basically. So just that 1 hour a week for that subject is a really good head start come September when they start in that subject. You'll be amazed.
True. Yeah, so just alleviating the anxiety, making sure that if they've had support in one stage, that the support carries on, that everybody's aware if there's a need, that the provision is right for the child. All of that, those conversations need to be had. And you need to study the children, make sure that they're doing what they need to do when they need to do it.
Mm.
What's our next slide?
Yeah. Another thing I find is sometimes, even though you are on the ball with this thing and you're trying to make sure that you're supporting, and this is from personal experience, the child might feel inadequate, or they feel for me to get help means I'm not good enough. It means I'm not smart enough, or I'm not. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you offering the support, you are on the ball, you want to help, but they're like, no, I'm smart enough for this. I should be able to do this by myself. For me to get help means I'm not good enough. So I'm going to weather this thing out by myself. And by the time they realize that they are way too deep, the time might have gone for any
Yeah.
help to do any justice.
Yeah. Those are conversations to be had, and that's an area where the parents conferences comes in handy. You've had a conversation with the teacher, who's the professional. They're saying this is what's the where the help is needed. It's having that conversation to say, look, you're doing well. It doesn't mean you're not doing well, but it could be better. So let's work on it. So once the approach is not, see, you're not learning. Now I have to go and find you a tutor. Everybody needs help at some
One
point
point or
or the other.
Yes.
I was even telling my friend yesterday that we're talking about her daughter who wanted to study psychology, and she said, oh, that it's because it's a lot of maths. She doesn't want to do that. I said, when I did a master's in psychology, I got a tutor, a master's, because I looked at the statistics and I was like, I need help with this. So, so we all need help at one point or the other. It's how we approach it. That's what will determine the response of the child.
And you know something, it's asking for help should not be a taboo.
It's everyday life.
It's not an acknowledgement that you're not good enough. Sometimes it might be moving you from better to best. So it's not an acknowledgement that you're not good enough. And I think that's something we probably need to convey more for our children, like you said, in A levels, especially for people that have not gone on that journey and don't know what it looks like. Yeah. And I tell the ones that I know today, I say, look, once you get to university, it's a different kettle of fish entirely. It's nothing like A levels. So if you can weather this and master this, it's good enough to get you through university.
Absolutely. Once they get through A levels.
If you can get through A levels, you will scale through university.
True.
That's what I try to, like I said, I try as much as possible to learn my lesson the first time, and once I've learned that lesson, I try not to make that mistake a second time. So, and if I had people that would put me through, if I had people that would, I mean, the reason I'm having this conversation, by the way, is almost because our hour is almost done. So I just feel like if we can conclude on this. You've said several things, to be honest with you, that I think is well worth pointing out. One of the takers I'm taking away is that part-time theme. Even though my children are not in that stage anymore, but it's knowledge under my belt for anybody that I know that might be going through it or ever brings in my way. That certain people, even that one that you said about exclusion, is it formal or is it informal? Have you given me some paperwork? All those kind of things. I know that a lot of people in diaspora struggle with their rights to begin with. Um, and unfortunately, this kind of educational program is not what they're going to watch. But this is really what we need to equip us. One of my go-to as a child of God that I always make reference to people is when God said to Abraham that how far can he see? And God said, as far as you can see is yours. Do you know after that, the Bible said that Abraham walked throughout. He walked it. That's what we call feasibility study. That's what we say, going to have a look. Most of the time, we don't do that.
True. Even in choosing school,
We don't do that.
You don't just choose schools because they've got the highest rating. Have you gone to see the school? What does it feel like? What's your spirit saying about it? What does the child feel about the school?
Thank you. That is from personal experience. I did exactly those things that you've just said. BBC league table, fantastic. I know where it is. I've bookmarked it. The whole thing is there. And then we go and, like you said, for me, most importantly, as a child of God, the Spirit of God leading you. It's one thing for me to want my child to be in Ivy League, all this thing, but is that where God wants my child to be? Is that where my child is going to thrive? Are they going to provide the necessary things for my child? I wouldn't know all of that. They can look good on paper, but at the end of the day, when my child is there, is he in good hands? Are they going to look after that child? Are they going to be able to meet the requirements of that child? Are they going to facilitate everything that is needed for that child? And like you said, that spiritual aspect, there were very good schools that we went to view. Thank God for the Spirit of God, I'm telling you. And you get in there and immediately, this is not for you. This is, in fact, there was one grammar school. We on paper, everything they've got pristine record. When we got there, oh wow, are they stuck up? They are so stuck up. The teachers, I'm talking about the teachers. Even the manner in which they were speaking to you. I mean, we were just coming to open evening. But we went through the whole thing. We went through everything. The child was accepted. And we said, and when we were, praying and everything, the Lord said, that place, that's not for you. And another one, in a dream, God said, this and this and this is what is happening in that place. So there are things that you and I would not see and is not open to the naked eyes. But again, I'm coming from personal experience, to be honest with you. One of the things you said is that many of us, if our child doesn't have special needs, you said something, you said children with special needs, you said you tend to find that it's the parents that are more on point, they are more hands-on, so to say. But we, the others, we're kind of like, they go to school, they look after them, they do everything. So what do I need to?
I don't need to do anymore.
I don't need to do anymore. Exactly. But is there any child that we don't need to do any more for, really?
Every child needs our attention.
Exactly. Every child
the
needs
good ones, they can become better.
Exactly. And then you spoke about extra curriculum. Maybe the school is not, maybe the child is interested in clarinet. The school don't do it. So where do you come into play in that? Extra curriculum, again, like you said, it might cost us money. There are things that might cost us money, but it's going to enhance the education of that child. It's going to build that child, give that child confidence, boldness. Again, I can't forget what you told us last week. Reading helps self-esteem. Writing helps with self-esteem and confidence. Well, if we didn't know that and we're not paying attention to the writing of our children, how are we going to help that child to thrive in confidence?
Yes, we got work to do.
We've got work to do. It's always. I think that one is a diplomatic answer. It's not a spiritual one this time. It's a diplomatic answer. But honestly, as we conclude this week, something the parents can take away that is really, I mean, I'm so glad that, this is an area that you're very passionate about, because I am as well. I'm a born fighter anyway, so but some people are just like, I don't like trouble, just go with what they say, sort of thing. In those kind of situation, what would you say to those parents that things will just sort itself out kind of attitude, if you understand what I'm saying, sis? That they just they need to fight for their child, so to say, but they kind of like, I don't like trouble. So
we're talking about the future. It's the future of our children. We would like. Do I look like a troublemaker? Do I look like a troublemaker? But once my children tell me something, I'm like, oh, okay. They'll be, Mommy, don't go. I will ask nicely.
exactly.
Excuse me, can I have some more information about, my child said this. Could you give me some, some more information? Can you explain that to me? I'm not quite sure. It's just be diplomatic, be nice. I would just like some more, because we are the best. We know our children the best. Sometimes we will get reports, and we would need to sit down and reflect and ask the Holy Spirit, is this my child? Is this right? If this is all right, then I've got to say, you are the expert, but on this point I disagree with you. And provide my own reasoning behind that.
So we need, I like the choice of word that you said when you in the title and your introduction, is that we all know what it means to advocate. We know what it means to advocate, and we need to become our children's advocates in their education. But before we can advocate, sis, we need to know what it is we are advocating for.
That's why you need to know the system. You need to know the subjects. You need to know the in and out. So as the children are growing, what I say is you grow with them. You grow and learn with them.
Exactly.
Welcome, Auntie.
Thanks very much, Sister Falakemi, for the enlightenment. I hope mothers watch and utilize. Honestly, I really do, because many of our children have been relegated to the back, not because they're not smart or intelligent, but the confidence building is not there, the support is not there, the advocate is not there. And how much can a child really fight for? Let's be honest. How much?
Some of them actually give up. They just be
exactly. And especially when they know that they haven't got the backing. There's nobody to fall back on. There's nobody you can go back. Like all of us at the end of a long day, we look forward to going back and having a natter with somebody, or, just downloading and pouring how your day was. And it makes you feel better. But when you know that at the end of the day, there's nobody, that even if you say it, nothing is going to happen. So what's going to happen?
That's discouraging.
Exactly.
Discouraging.
Exactly. Sis, I am so grateful.
You're welcome.
I knew we wouldn't, but since this is I see from the beginning you started, it's definitely an area of passion for you. So we're going to have a ball. No worries. Thank you very much. So we
welcome.
look forward to having you very soon by the grace of God.
Okay.
So from all of us, enjoy the rest of your evening, sis.
Thank you. And you
You're
too.
welcome, ma. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye. Everybody, that is Sister Folakemi. And as always, like I said, we are so grateful for having her. And if you don't already know Sister Folakemi or you are not following her, she is on Instagram, she's on Facebook. In fact, two areas you find her on Facebook, 2 pages you find her on Facebook, 2 pages you find her on Instagram as well, and she's definitely on YouTube as well. So please do follow. Like I said, I'm not very present on Facebook anymore, like I used to be at one point. But I know she used to post a lot of things. I think one time she was going through the alphabet of how you can help your children. The A could be for maybe advocacy and things like that. B maybe for benefit. She was going through them of how we can help our children. So please feel free to follow Sister Folakemi wherever you find her. And like I said, she's definitely on YouTube as well. Okay, I guess this is the junction, everybody, where I will hand you over. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your time. Where I hand you over to the Holy Spirit. So have a wonderful day, morning, or night, everybody. And God willing, we will see each other tomorrow by the grace of God. Take care. God bless you all and see you soon.
I am blessed of the Lord, his hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. I am blessed of the Lord, his hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, we're living in fear of God. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, we're living in fear of God. Like the holy land, round about your table, children are the heritage of God. I am seeking first the kingdom of God, cause I am a praying child. I gotta pray just to I am a praying child.